Were the Celtics bored? A big name thinks so. Plus, we start looking at the offseason and my theory as to why Brad Stevens made us wait to get into it with him until draft night. It's all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamped. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Prime time, dapping D White on the sideline. Rain and Jace, how it started, raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, and I got you covered every Monday through Friday. This podcast is free. It's available everywhere. It's on YouTube. You can find it without having to look very hard for it. So please do watch and listen. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've been doing this job in various places for about 20 years. I've written a couple of books. So I feel like I do okay talking about the Celtics. So welcome aboard. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're an everyday or if you're with me Monday through Friday, you know I love you for that. So thank you. Later on, we'll get into the offseason. The first bits of, all right, let's dive into how the Celtics need to approach this, why I think Brad Stevens is making us wait to talk to him about what might be happening. And I don't think it's what he said. We'll talk about all of that stuff. But first, I want to bring in the biggest gun I got, the heaviest hitter I got, Tom Westerholm. The only hitter I got, I guess.
But
still the biggest.
Definitely the biggest.
The biggest and the best. There's no doubt.
The worst, but that's okay.
But also the best.
I'm versatile,
You could be the best and the worst. Sometimes in the same show.
Two-way player. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I say that after a false start on this podcast, or the worst opening ever.
You have to call timeout on yourself.
To call a timeout on myself and start over again. LeBron James said on his new podcast with Steve Nash, the one he used to do with JJ Redick, now he's doing it with Steve Nash, next head coach of the LA Lakers. And in it, he said the Celtics look bored. He said they gave him a compliment, gave Tatum and Brown a compliment. They're so great, he said, that sometimes it looks like they get bored. And what we're trying to do in this first segment here is figure out, is he trolling? Is he just kind of messing with these guys? Or does he have a point? I kind of think he has, maybe it's both. I kind of think he has a point. I think he has a point, and we're coming off a Knicks series where they went up 20, and it's like, got it. And they've had instances all season long. Last season, not so much, but all season long. I think the disappointment of that 2023 Miami thing made last season a real special season. I think this season they might have reverted back to some old habits. And I think getting bored with certain things, I think that's part of it. And I say that like knowing that they are great most of the time, but I think it's unavoidable that they get bored when things are going great. They're like, okay, yep, we're just going to, Austin Powers, put the other team in an easily escapable situation and just assume everything goes according to plan.
You want to hear something depressing?
Sure.
You just said all of that in the present tense. And actually, it's all in the past tense, probably, right? They used to get bored. I don't know, because here's the thing that's kind of sad about all of that, right? That's all kind of normal for a team coming off a championship. And in the past, a team coming off a championship might have had another season to correct itself, to be the Spurs and to go every other year where win a championship, kind of like fall off a little bit. But then no, we got it back. All right, we're going to win the championship this year. Oh, man, championship. That's hard work, man. We lost that year. All right, we're coming back and we're winning the champion, and kind of doing that every other year thing. And that's, this Celtics team, it's like, the Celtics team is great. But this Celtics team is kind of a past tense thing, probably at this point.
That's sad.
Isn't that sad?
That really That
Doesn't that
really,
suck?
I did not anticipate the first segment already going in this direction. That's a punch to the nether region. That's a John
sorry
Cena
to start with
to the
that.
lower.
It's just-
Oh man.
appreciate you. I'll see myself out.
Yeah.
No, I
Wah,
think
wah. No, but it's true. It's true. But and that's what this whole second and third segment's going to be.
yeah,
You know,
for
that's
sure.
what that whole thing is going to be. But yeah, I talk in the present tense. But okay, here's why I talk in the present tense, because it's Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Those are the guys.
Yeah.
Those, I think, and I don't know if it's a youth thing. I don't know if it's because they're not alone. 20-point leads get,
Sure, right.
they're blown all the time. But the Celtics, I don't know what it is about 20 points. As soon as leads hit 20 points this past season, as soon as they hit 20 points, it was immediate run for the other team. Not 21, not 25, 20. Like over and over again. And I never understood that. And okay, the middle of the season, that December, January thing, definitely a little bit of boredom. And I do think LeBron was trolling a little bit because they got eliminated. He's like, he's trying to throw a little something their way, but it's like one of those, there's a little truth to the joke.
Sure.
And I'll just say, they have to break that. They have to break that because every season moving forward, like you're not going to be like just dominant anymore. This is no longer the Celtics are now, because of the second apron stuff, are coming back down to earth, and they've rejoined the pack.
Yeah.
And that I think that might naturally kind of change the whole boredom thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably true. I also think, it's kind of interesting. I wonder a little bit if LeBron is kind of suffering from something that I think we saw in like the national media, especially at the start of the year, where people around, the league, not people who watch the Celtics every day or who follow them, but I think people are bored of the Celtics, right? I think people are kind of tired of this iteration of the Celtics, right? And so then when you see the Celtics lose, you're like, oh, I think the Celtics get bored sometimes. But I think sometimes that's a little bit like projection, right? Of like, I'm tired of seeing the Celtics. I'm bored of them. Narratively, it's more interesting if you're not, Boston based. It's more interesting that the Knicks won. It's more interesting that this is a, Pacers Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. I think there might be a little bit of that too, which is funny coming from LeBron, who will then go on to give the most detailed breakdown of something that, far beyond anything that any of us could possibly understand, to then kind of lean into what I would consider to be a slightly cheaper narrative there, because I don't necessarily know, especially in the playoffs, I don't know that I thought that the Celtics got bored per se. I mean, it felt like they got a nice lead against the Knicks. They kind of panicked, and I don't know how much better that is than boredom, like that they froze up and just started because I don't think Tatum, when he was like trying to like these hero ball threes when the Celtics were up by 20 and as the 20-point lead was trickling away and he's hoisting hero ball 3-pointers, I don't think he was bored. I think that he was like kind of losing his mind. I think that they all kind of like just kind of lost it a little bit. Which is distinct to me. But anyway,
I disagree a little bit, because I thought in game one for sure, it was, I believe this to my core. Celtics came out strong, fought hard, got up 20, and we're like, look at this, man. We've blown these guys out all regular season.
Yeah.
Now here we are up 20. We got this, man. We got it. And they were starting to that they started to coast. So call it boredom, call it whatever. They started to coast.
Sure.
And they gave up that run at the end of the third quarter. And then they started taking the hero ball threes, because they were like, it started to be like, okay, I'll just hit this three to okay, they hit a couple of baskets. I'll just hit this three to get it back. Okay, they hit a third basket. Oh, we need a couple of threes to get it back.
Right.
Okay, they hit a fourth basket. Like, okay, now we need to hit some threes because they're starting to catch up.
Right.
And then it
starts to get into that double or nothing thing of like, no, if I double or nothing, I get to make up my losses though. So it's all good. I I just got to hit on this double or nothing.
Right.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
started,
for sure.
then the panic started to set in.
Right.
Then they got flustered. And then in game 2, when I don't think they got bored in game 2.
Right.
I think game 2 was a reaction to game 1.
Yeah.
And then they overreacted to we missed 45 3-pointers and overdrove, and like they went too hard on the 2-pointers.
Yeah.
And both games they got away from what they do best. But I do agree that it kind of starts with some level of boredom, coasting, whatever it is. And that's something that if I have one criticism about the Tatum/Brown era is that it lacked a distinct like F you, like up 20, who cares? Might as well be up 2. We're gonna go up 40. And they've had their fair share of 50-point games.
Yeah.
And other teams have a say, but I do think there's like it's not in their personalities. I think they let up. I think they feel like there's this like, okay, we're not going to disrespect these guys. And like there's this, I do think this is part of the youth thing. We're not going to disrespect these guys. So we're going to pull off a little bit. When it's like, no, man, 48 minutes of basketball. And when the whistle blows, when the buzzer sounds at the end of 48, that's when you stop. You go into a blind rage. You go out there for 48 minutes. You just, I don't want to sound like a movie coach, but like kill. And then when you're done, it's like, okay, whatever you're up, you're up.
Yeah, because you know that you're going to get 48 minutes of starters against the Knicks because Tibbs isn't pulling anybody out. So yeah,
that's right.
You got
that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think there's a point, and I do think there's something that has to change just within those guys because it's going to happen next year. It is going to happen next year. No matter who plays, they're going to go up 20. They're going to give up a lead. And I'm going to sit there in the post game being like, you guys are still doing this, So, all right. Yeah. What's that team going to look like next year? Okay. This is a long, tough road that we're going to have to start going down. And I'll give my theory as to why Brad Stevens is making us wait to discuss this postseason, this offseason until draft night. That's all coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Skims. Skims is notably making, it just sounds bad, notably makes underwear for women. My wife is a big fan of the Skims line. And then I said, hey, they're making underwear for men. They're going to send me a pair. She's like, you're going to love them. So enjoy. We're going to start buying you some more of these. And she was right. I have the 5-inch boxer brief, which is great. Like if you are going to the gym, you can walk around. You're not doing that little dance shimmy of like, oh yeah, I know what's going on with this guy. He's trying to be like inconspicuous about, doing that little thing. The Skim stays in place. It feels like you're wearing nothing at all, really. Whether you're at the gym, walking the dogs or whatever, it's great. But they have the 3-inch boxer brief. They have the stretch boxer brief. They have the cotton brief. They have something for everybody, whatever style you want to use. Whatever you want to wear. So go check it out at skims.com/LockedOnNBA, skims.com/LockedOnNBA, or just go to a Skims store. When you buy a pair, and I know you're going to buy a pair, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows so they know that we sent you. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA and Locked On NBA Game Night. There's a playoff game tonight with Minnesota and OKC. They will have it all covered on Game Night and the big storylines on Locked On NBA. It's all in the same feed. All right, Tom. This is the beginning of a long, brutal road that is it's going to be painful. It's just going to be painful. Things are changing. The second apron is changing things, and there's nothing we can do about it, right? So let's set this up. The Celtics have 2 things that they need to do. Number 1 is get under that second apron, because right now, being over the second apron, you have 2 frozen draft picks 7 years out. And 7 years out for the Celtics is like prime rebuild time. 7 years out is Jayson Tatum's 37. He might be done. Like his career might be over at that point. Celtics might be deep into a rebuild or just coming out of a rebuild. If those picks, you unable to trade them, but if you stay in the second apron for another year, those picks start to drop to the bottom of the draft. So if they stay over the second apron this upcoming season, that first pick 7 years out goes to the bottom of the draft no matter what. They could win 0 games that year and they would pick 30th. You cannot have that. Number 2.
Unbelievably punitive, by the way. Like
unbelievable.
Like
just crazy.
I know it's like obvious. People talk about how punitive the second apron is, but when you say it out loud and you start, it's like,
yeah,
no, like wild stuff.
You think
I don't
about
remember
it,
who it was. It was probably Ryan Bernardoni, but somebody pointed out, just based on Ryan's track record of being right about things, but somebody pointed out that this feels like them ramping up to a hard cap in the future, right? Where it's like
100%.
Like it's very clearly what this is. Yeah.
I don't think they even need to ramp up to a hard cap.
They've kind of just
the
done
second apron is a hard cap for the most part. And very often it is literally a hard cap because if you aggregate in a trade, so if the Celtics dip below the second apron and you send out 2 players to get one, you're hard capped at the second apron.
Right.
So it literally is a hard cap. And because once you're over it for 3 years, those draft picks start to drop to the bottom of the draft. 7 years out, because they did it 7 years out for a reason. So that's when the good teams are going to be rebuilding.
Yeah. You're
at your peak.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're like, screw it. We're going to go into that second. You get a big brash owner, Matt Ishbia, and you're like, no, we're going to do second apron again. I don't care. And like the front office is like,
every
no,
championship is worth it no matter what in the future. And like, yeah.
And then some team 7 years from now is going to be picking 30th.
Yep.
And it's going to be after a horrible season. You're going to be like, you can't even win the lottery. Right. Yeah. Like, and invariably there will be a story of, well, Boston's like lottery, the ping pong balls went in Boston's favor, but they were 30th and they couldn't get the pick. So, whatever. So,
that's true. That is coming.
So bottom line, you got to get under the second apron. That's it. And it is a de facto hard cap. Teams come over a little bit and then just pick that back down. So they don't even have to say hard cap anymore. The tax. Now by going down below the second apron, you're automatically cutting the tax, but they're repeater team. Let me explain repeater team. They're $40 million over the tax line. Their tax bill is almost $240 million because the first 5.7 gets taxed at $3 per dollar you're over. Every increment keeps going up. The last 3 increments, 775, 825, 875, you got to dip below that. You got to at some point. So this is a long-winded way of me saying priority number 1, second apron. That has to happen this year. Next year, I think it's pretty impossible. We're not impossible, but very disruptive to get under the tax this year.
Yeah.
But next year, you have to get under the tax. And you have to do all of that for 2 more seasons. So that's 3 seasons of no second apron. So you can reset that. And 2 seasons of under the tax. So you can reset that. You have to do 2 in a row to not be a repeater anymore.
Yep.
That's what Brad Stevens has to do starting this season. So when I say all that stuff out loud, it is like, it makes this past season not winning it makes it feel really bad.
Even if you don't win it, it makes blowing it. Right?
Yeah.
It makes to the point that Brad Stevens admitted, we blew it.
We blew it.
We blew that one. Man.
Yeah.
Cause like
it hurts.
You were never getting this opportunity again. This was a once in a generation type team, and you won a title with a once in a generation type team, and you cannot take that away. Banner flies forever, all that stuff. But it's past tense. You know, it is very over. And I think it's interesting because I think that this type of punitive stuff, right? It makes you wonder, right? Like, okay, how Brad is a very creative man. Brad knows a lot about basketball. But when your primary focus, like your primary focus over the next 2 years is going to be all financial. It's not going to, like, you're not giving Brad was really good at building a championship team, but Brad's entire focus was on basketball, right? This is a new type of challenge where it's not just basketball anymore. Now it's like trying to balance a bunch of stuff. And by the way, with an absolutely impossible task of balancing that with your super duper star, you don't know what he's going to look like over the next 24 months, right?
Yeah.
You just don't know. Like that's an insane task. I actually think that, like, one thing Celtics fans should probably brace for, right, is that everybody's very used to looking at Brad Stevens and being like, miracle worker Brad. And like, he's been really great, really awesome. But I think this task that's ahead of him is by far, I think, the toughest one that he's got. And, kind of be prepared for it to maybe not look as perfect as people are maybe hoping, would be my small piece of advice here.
Yeah. So the way I'm putting it is, the goal isn't like you're going to get worse, right? There's no doubt. This team is going to get worse. That's what the second apron is built to do. Yep. The whole point of this is to tear apart the good teams and spread the talent around the league. And it sucks for the Celtics. It's going to suck for the Suns. It's going to suck for the Bucks. But that's what this is designed to do. There's no more dynasty. You better, like, unless you get a Wembanyama, maybe a Cooper Flat, maybe those guys can start dynasties early because they're so great and so young, and that changes the calculus there a little bit. But this is going to be a much different situation. You're going to get worse. So Brad's job is, how do we get worse in the least painful way possible? How do you make this team worse, but not so much worse that you're like, crap, we suck now. Yeah. So I'll throw this out there. My very feeble mind trying to put like Brad Stevens hat on and be like, all right, how can we do this? You know, the paperclip trading thing, where trade a paperclip for like a pen and trade a pen, you keep trading up.
Right.
I want to do the reverse. I'm finding players, Holiday for a guy who makes the least amount of money that you can trade for, and then flip that guy for whatever the most percentage lower you can go, and then flip that guy until you get to a spot where you're like, okay, this has saved me enough money where the guy I have is not great, but he does a good enough job. So the example, I tweeted this out. It's in my piece on Boston Sports Journal. I'm using these names. I don't know if these names are going to be the names, but it gets you it explains what I'm trying to do. I'll say it to you and then chew on it and tell me what you think afterwards. Drew Holiday for Tobias Harris saves you $6 million. Then you flip Tobias Harris for, brace yourself, Marcus Smart. That saves you $5 million. But Marcus, don't come to Boston.
Yep.
Marcus Smart flipped for Kevin Huerter. Saves you another $3.5 million. Now you have Kevin Huerter at $18 million in an expiring deal. Very important. He's an expiring deal. At $18 million. So you've gone from 32 to 18. And on an expiring deal for a guy who is not great. No one's like clamoring for Kevin Huerter, but he's a shooter.
He can play.
38. He can play.
Yeah.
He can play. Can hit at 38%. Saves you $14 million or so. It's something that you can tolerate. So, and then because his $18 million is an expiring deal, you let him walk. That helps you with the tax thing next summer. Think about that. We'll get that concept. We'll continue that when we come back. And then we'll get to the Brad Stevens, why he's putting things off until draft night. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at Car Gurus because they want to make shopping for a car exciting, not exhausting. I know firsthand how exhausting this thing can be buying a car. My wife is car shopping right now. And you know what? I'm going to give her the Car Gurus website here. We're gonna figure this out. With over 4 million listing, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major or online marketplace in the United States. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second guessing yourself. Need a deal you can trust? Car Gurus makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. The best feature is price drop alerts, so you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. Plus, the in-depth vehicle details give you the peace of mind before stepping onto any lot. It's no wonder SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's CARGURUS.com, cargurus.com. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Appreciate you every day as joining me. If you're a new listener, make sure you're subscribed. Hop on, join me because this summer is going to be a wild one. We're just getting started here. Tomorrow, I should have Keith Smith on the show to get more in depth on some of the nitty gritty numbers. But for now, let's continue with some of our bigger picture stuff. Tom, what did you think about the thing that I laid out before?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way of going about it. And I mean, I think, you know, but and I think it's interesting, right? Because it comes back to that thing. It's like, okay, you're gonna get worse. The hope that you have, right, is that you can maintain enough of your talent level that like the massive downgrade. Because here's the thing about Drew Holiday, right? Drew Holiday was wildly overqualified for the role that he was playing.
Yeah.
Kevin Huerter is much closer to being an appropriate talent for the role that Drew Holiday was playing, right?
Yeah.
And like that's the place where you hope you can get to, is like, okay, we know that we can't have Drew Holiday be the 5th best player in our starting lineup anymore. Fine. Okay, fine. Can we have a guy who could conceivably be the 5th best player in a starting lineup? And like, you know, especially a starting lineup that has, you know, potentially, if you can make it work, have both Tatum and Brown in it, right? You'd love that. If Kevin Huerter's in that starting lineup, you're all right.
Yeah.
You're doing all right. Not doing amazing, but you got some absolute studs at the top of that lineup, and that's as much as you can hope for here, maybe.
What we're looking at, I'm sorry.
No, yeah. That was the end of my point.
What we're looking at here is when I say the Celtics return to the pack, the past 2 seasons of me being called an arrogant jerk by the opposing when we do the crossover stuff, that's going to go away because there's nothing. Even though I was wrong about the Celtics,
no, you were right.
We were right. We were right.
Right.
We were right, even though the Celtics didn't cooperate.
We said before the start of the series, the thing to be worried about was injuries and missing 3-pointers. I am sorry. We were right. We were. What do you want from us?
But my point that I always make about the Celtics don't have anybody you can attack defensively, and other teams do. Well, the Celtics are going to have somebody you can attack defensively now.
Yeah.
And if it's Kevin Huerter,
it's going to suck to watch.
It's going to suck to watch because you're going to like next season's analysis is going to be heavy on, well, okay, so you got to play, Luke Cornett, let's just say, with this group. If you're going to have Huerter out there, you got to have Luke out there because he's going to be able to block the show or be a rim that you can't have Al out there with Kevin Huerter. Like that type of stuff is going to come in. Lineup stuff that we didn't even consider this year or last year. Like that stuff, we're going to have to be like on our game now. Like, oh, lineup stuff. Oh my God, lineup issues. Oh, okay.
Well, and it's going to be interesting. What's really going to be interesting from that perspective is if they go the opposite direction, and instead of getting a shooter in Kevin Huerter, if they get somebody who defends but can't shoot at all, and then it's
Josh
like
Hart style.
Yeah, and then it's like, all right, Tatum.
Yeah.
What can you do now? Because
yes.
you have got to have the shooty lineup around you this whole time. It's not gonna be quite so
Yes.
cushy now if they go the opposite direction.
It's gonna be so crazy.
Yeah.
Now the other part of this is there's a potential element to, hey, the playoffs are going on right now, but this is still a calendar, the 2024-25 calendar year where the Celtics can still make moves. I think part of like why Brad Stevens said we'll revisit all this stuff around the draft is because I think that there's the potential that one of these moves, the first of these moves, could be done before the draft during this calendar year. There's some trick that he can pull, because I don't know what it would be, because Brad's smart and I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised. Brace yourselves for a move to be done between now and the draft that sets up the summer of moves for the Boston Celtics. I think that might be part of why. I don't think he's waiting to talk to the new ownership group. Like they've talked. You're telling me like they haven't talked? Come on. You don't think Bill Chisholm is sitting there like, man, I've been trying to get to Brad, but I don't know, just can't do it. Like, come on. They've talked.
I think Bill Chisholm's like, man, that's Celtics. Man, I keep meaning to, you've been on my to-do list.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to you. Brad. I promise. I've been busy.
He's leaving Brad on red and just no, that's not happening. These guys have spoken. They know what the edicts are. We all know what the edicts are.
Yeah.
Get under the second. You have to get under the second apron. You have no choice. You cannot run it back second apron this year. That would be just malpractice. Mm-hmm. You have to get under the tax next year. You have to. You just can't be paying $9 or whatever. That's especially with a new ownership group. Mm-hmm. We know. So Brad's pushing this off because I think he has irons in the fire. It's just me guessing, but I think he has irons in the fire, and there's the potential for a move between now and the draft that's going to set up everything. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying it will happen, but keep your antennas up because I think it could happen.
Yeah. No, I think that's reasonable.
All right. This is depressing. The tone of these podcasts has changed so much. Yeah. This isn't like we're done with the Celtics are so great. What are we talking about with the Celtics?
We're done. We are. That's gone.
That is done, man. The Celtics are going to come back as a not super flawed, but definitely flawed. And we haven't even touched on the possibility of how much longer is Jayson here, or Jaylen, probably Jaylen. Like I'll just put it out there. In a couple of years, the tax line is going to be $206 million. And was it 2 years from now? Mm-hmm. Tatum and Brown are going to combine to make $115 million. Mm-hmm. You cannot put a good team together with two guys making $115 million and 12 players splitting 91 to stay under the tax. And you're going to have to stay under the tax that season.
I'll put it out there. I will also put something out there. I'll do it. Like
veteran minimum,
split up 91 million. Give me whatever piece of that pie you want to give me.
Sure. But
yeah, no,
Tatum and Brown combining to make 115.
Yeah.
When the tax line, it's not even the cap. The tax line is 206. We might only have like next year might be it. Like we really might we're at the end of the podcast, but I'm sitting here saying like it's possible Jaylen doesn't even come back next year.
Yeah,
it's possible.
It's
a non-zero chance.
I think it's significantly higher than non-zero implies that it's close to zero. I don't know that I think it's particularly close to zero. It's like you said, we're at minute 34:25. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to get. But we'll tease that. I'll get into that with Keith, I guess, tomorrow.
All right.
How much longer is Jaylen Brown? And I'm not sitting here trying to trade Jaylen. Like I'm not trying to be like Jaylen's got to go.
I mean, the same way we're not trying to trade Drew Holiday. It's just like
no, I don't want to trade Drew Holiday. I don't want to do any of this stuff.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't trade
like,
position, like,
anytime you can trade a good player off your team that has really helped you,
yeah.
you got to do it. Like, no, that's not what
I'm sitting
we're
here
doing.
being like, well, Kevin Herter for Drew Holiday. I'm good with that. Like, that's not something a basketball person should ever say. No, but in this situation, like that right there tells you what this situation is going to be. You're sitting here being like, yeah, I can tolerate Drew Holiday being traded for Kevin Herter. That tells you everything about where the Celtics are, because I tweeted it out there and people are like, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
Because
It almost feels optimistic that you would get a player of Kevin Herter's air
caliber.
quality, right?
Yeah.
Hey, he's fine. The pride
No,
of Albany, New York. I'm not trying to crap on Kevin Herter here.
No. He's fine. It's
fine.
just okay, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Oh man, this is so tough. Guys, this is so tough. This is going to be a crazy summer. But I'm here. I'm going to try to talk you through it, walk you through it, but it's going to get bad. Like, this is the pilot speaking. I've put on the seatbelt, fasten seatbelt sign. I've also put on, if you watch SNL, the prayer hand sign this past year, this past episode, flying into Newark. I've put on every sign, everything. We're going to hit some turbulence. It's going to be bad. Buckle up. So I'll be here for you every step of the way. Make sure you're subscribed, watch the show on YouTube, get into the comment section, share your thoughts with me, and then share the podcast with your friends, family, everybody. Tell them they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.